Hello, welcome to the Black Bear and Medicine Bag Show. Sit back and enjoy some stump dance music from the Seminole Uchi Muskogee. Yes. That was stump dance music. Common to the southeastern from the Cherokees, the Muskogee, Yamasee, and many other nations that we would later talk about tonight. But let's first jump into our trending topic. On February 26th, the Quinoa Casino interests stand at one of the 5 salt tribes gaming properties in Upper Michigan, which all were forced to suspend operations on February 9th due to a ransom attack that had disturbed tribals, health services, and government operations. That's very interesting that these things can happen, but you know, the St. Marie tribe of Ojibwe Indians, Michigan's the largest, announced today that the Quinoa Casino will be welcoming back guests on Wednesday, February 26th, following a cyber attack early this month. So, like I was saying previously before, that people really need to have cybersecurity lock down their things. Do not open up any emails. Have a security IT person the tribe probably needs to send to school. There was something, or maybe it was done internally. Hey, start paying your people. Hopefully, though, but that wasn't a laughing matter because it shut down the healthcare system. So, anytime it messes with government operations, that's nothing good. We got to think about that too. But hopefully, they learn from this situation. This is a growing point, and they do put passwords and certain things where somebody can't easily hack into something, and even maybe put a password in their tribal language that makes it harder for people on the outside to do it. So it's within and not on the outside. But cyber attacks always do happen constantly. But I have learned from working in local government, the longer, the harder the word is, the more difficult these attacks are. Don't open up any emails, as I said before. Be leery. But we really don't know the full details about what really happened, how it went down. It's probably still being investigated. But sometimes cyber attacks are made within an organization. Like there could be somebody on the outside working to make their systems better, and all while they sitting around plotting to run down organizations. This is all over the world issues that I've seen before. All right, moving on. I have one indigenous medicine that I will be talking about, because we will be talking about John Horse tonight and the Cherokee Slave Revolt of 1842. Yes, 1842, Cherokee Slave Revolt. Let's just jump back into our normal proceedings. Today I will be pulling out of the Black Bear Medicine Bag medicinal plant, Plumero. All right, Plumero is a shrub like palm that is native to the southeastern United States. Historically, it was used for various conditions, including disorders of male and female reproductive coughs and due to various diseases. Currently, saw primarily is promoted as a dietary supplement for urinary symptoms associated with enlarged prostate gland called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BH, as well as chronic pelvic pain, migraines, hair loss, and other conditions. All right, that's all that I have for you guys today as far as that goes. Let's jump in with no further ado to a great man. Let's back up. Let's back up all the way. Let's talk about Juan Caballo, also known as John Horse. But before we do that, let's back up a little and give the idea of what is a Seminole, a cimarron, from the Spanish word that means to run away. The Seminole were made up of many other nations. It's homogeneous. There was the Yamasi, the Yuchi, the Appalachi, the Calusa, the Miccosukee. So there are many language and tribal groups, and you can't forget about the Gullah Geechee people that fell into that and runaway slaves from the Georgia and probably Alabama regions. And also it was because the Muskogee Red Sticks were running away from the White Sticks. Let me break that down. There was a civil war in between the Creek Nation, right? So you got the White Sticks, who were more mixed with European and Creek blood, who wanted to enslave other natives and black folks or African folks, whatever you wanted to find that as. On top of that, they became more Christian and attended college and adopted more of the influential type of white man type of way. Versus Muskogee Creeks wanted to keep more of their traditional ways. So there was a big war that broke out in between them, and Andrew Jackson helped fight against the Red Sticks. Then the Red Sticks ran away from that situation that survived the Battle of Big Bend. They headed over there down to Florida, where they found safe haven among all the other native nations, basically, of the different ones that I just said. So probably a lot of native nations were running away, and then they just got to the point where they decided to collab together, basically. So going forward, we have John Horse, who was born in 12 and died in Mexico, a little outside of Mexico City in 1882. We're about to talk about a great hero for Black indigenous people. He was his of African, American Indian, and Spanish descent from all of my research that I found out. His father's name was Joe Coon, and his mother's name was Susie July. His father was a slave, and his mother was indigenous. We know that of the Seminole people. During the Second Seminole War, he was a sub chief, and basically he was very valiant because of his skill set. You got to think he had a long time growing up in the floors and of the swamps and of all of that terrain, so he knew where everything was, and he used that. Guerrilla warfare was what the Seminoles used. The United States Army couldn't defeat them. The Marine Corps couldn't defeat them. You know what I'm saying? It was the will to survive. And they said that this was more of a Negro war than a Native war. I believe both of them. They couldn't tell them apart the way that they fought. And you got to think, runaway Maroon, Black folks were among the Seminole too. They were fighting for freedom, and they understood that it was better to die on their feet than to live on their knees, as Zapata said. So I can imagine them fighting super hard against the United States. But John Horse, along with many other Seminoles, got tired of the constant running and hiding, and so he decided to surrender to the United States, and he served as an interpreter and a way to talk to a lot of Seminoles to give up their fight. He didn't stay for the third one. So in 1842, he 1838 he in 1842 he relocated to Oklahoma along with his band, and he negotiated for him and all of the Black Seminoles to have freedom, or he thought that that's what would happen. When he got to Oklahoma, he found out that it wasn't what he thought, and so somebody tried to take his life. So he had to move to Fort Gibson, which I never knew he had to move to Fort Gibson. There he served as an interpreter and, scout probably for the United States. Later on, he started a town which my great-grandfather is from, my grandfather currently is from. It's called Wewoka, Oklahoma, basically. And you guys could check that out. There's a lot of Black Seminoles, freemen that's on the rolls. Moving forward, autumn of 1849, approximately 20 Black Seminoles families followed Wildcat or Coco Cuhi to Coahuila, Mexico. Well, Mexico had a long feud with the Comanche Nation and the Apache nations. In particular, of the Apaches, the Mescalero and the Membrano Apaches, raiding in probably Sinaloa, Coahuila, Sonora, Mexico. So, with that being said, they used the knowledge of the Seminole Negro Scouts to fight valiantly, and this earned them land in Nacimiento, Coahuila, Mexico. And there were other indigenous people who went down there too. They don't mention this, but different groups like the Kickapoo, they're also in Nacimiento along with the Lenape, which they're down there too. But they probably went further. They probably merged into the Kickapoo now. But you could actually go down to Nacimiento, and there's still that recognized land there, recognized indigenous town called Nacimiento. So they called John Horse Juan Caballo, and he became a captain in the Mexican army. The United States heard about his services. that he was doing, and they remembered how good of his he was. So they somebody went to him and told him, "Hey, why don't you come work for the United States?" So he decided to move to Fort Duncan, Texas, and also Fort Clark. And a lot of the Black Seminoles attached themselves to a regiment called Buffalo Soldiers, who were Black soldiers themselves, but they needed them so that they could assist them in tracking the Comanches and the Apaches and different outlaws in order to stop them from doing craziness in the Southwest, to bring order into the Southwest. And a lot of times they would work on the Mescalero Apaches, Reds too, these Buffalo Soldiers. Now, moving forward, one of the things I did know about John Horse and the Buffalo Soldiers, they were so good they never lost a scout, if that tells you anything. But John Horse in particular served as an interpreter and more as an advisor in situations like that. He wasn't so much of a scout compared to the other Buffalo Soldiers who did a lot of the Buffalo, not even Buffalo, my bad, the Seminole scouts, basically. I mean, they really took advantage of this opportunity in Mexico. I'm not Mexico, well, United States, basically. And once again, after they got done with the Indian Wars, as far as putting the Comanche and Oklahoma on the res and pushing the Mescalero Apaches to New Mexico on a reservation, the United States did not keep their word to honor the military reservation and the land that they said they would give John Horse and the Seminole Negro Scouts. So they decided to go back home to Nacimiento, Coahuila, Mexico. And so John Horse decided that he would go back to Mexico and speak with President Porfirio about securing land in Nacimiento, because he understood with this long fight and this long journey from Florida to Oklahoma, from Oklahoma to Coahuila, Mexico, then from Coahuila back to Texas. He understood at this tender age that land was important for his band of 20 Black Seminoles and other Seminoles. He understood that, and so he wanted to make sure this would happen. But on his way back, he passed away from securing the land. But the land is still honored. In fact, just this past few months, the female new president of Mexico recognized all indigenous communities and Afro-Indigenous communities in Mexico, which I found this was a great honor that Mexico actually honors its word. But don't get me wrong, there's been a long, hard fight in order to be recognized as communities in Mexico. So this is a major jump, basically, that both the Muskogos or Black Seminoles in Mexico enjoy, and so do many of the other indigenous people of Mexico enjoy, basically. But you could pay tribute to this honor by thinking of all the indigenous and Black indigenous people that have served Mexico from day one for freedom and liberty. All right, give me 1 second as we will be going into the next thing. The Cherokee Slave Revolt of 1842. Let me get that right. All right. The Cherokee Nation by 1860 had over 4,600 slaves, basically, and it was the influential mixed blood class and chiefs who owned these slaves in the Cherokee Nation. For non English speaking Cherokees, they served as a bridge in between the Unega white, that's what they would say white world, and the indigenous world. They would be interpreters and serve to speak and to serve explain things, speak English for them. But the Cherokee Nation always feared that there would be an uprising. And this actually happened at November 15th, 1842, when 20 slaves decided to lock their masters. But let's back this up. Well, the Black Seminoles, a lot of them were already moving around and free, and the Seminoles Nation armed their people with weapons, and they were able to move around. The ideal of being a slave to the Seminoles was totally different than what the Cherokees. The Cherokees practiced more of a, especially when to Oklahoma, more of a formal cattle slavery, no different than you saw from their white counterparts, basically. Even though the sad that was true, but not all Cherokees, especially the traditionalists, didn't practice this form of cattle slavery, but the more of the ones who were more affluential, the same thing like the Creeks, the concept was, hey, we're gonna act the same way as the white man. We're gonna beat the white man. So some of them, there were some cruel slave masters. Every slave master was different. That's just Cherokee Freeman. A lot of them go back to the old chiefs because the old chiefs would be sleeping with their slaves. But they made laws within the Cherokee Nation where they weren't recognized as full members at certain periods of time. Back then, before the DOS rolls, in order to be considered Cherokee, you would have to traditionally have to have a mother's mother's mother. But eventually they figured that out and they decided to let anybody in who had a mother or father that was a Cherokee, basically. But moving forward, let's get back to the story of the slaves revolt. They decided to lock all of their masters in the sheds, and then from there they stopped in the Creek Nation, picked up some of the Creek slaves, and then they decided to stop in the Choctaw Nation and pick up some slaves from them. And they kept going as fast as they could, as hard as they could, probably all day and all night, rode on horses. And a militia from the Cherokee Nation was sent out. Yes, a militia. They were comprised of Creeks and Choctaws, Black horsemen, to go and seek these people. And they caught up to them at Red River in between Oklahoma and Texas, that little river part. And there was a battle that ensued, basically. And this battle was fought hard, but eventually they were tired of fighting and they gave up. 5 slaves from the Cherokee Nation was executed, and the rest were put on steamboat boats, and they were made to work on the Missouri and the Mississippi River for the rest of their life, basically. And let me tell you, working on a steamboat is not anything easy. And because of this slave revolt in the Cherokee Nations, all of the free blacks that was among them and Black Seminoles were kicked out. They could no longer stay in the Cherokee Nation because they were looked at as dangerous. They gave ideals of freedom and they showed them how to get down to Mexico. That's a crazy concept, basically, to be able to be free when they were practicing slavery and they didn't want nobody to have knowledge of that, basically. So that was a scary idea of their slaves running away, basically. Hello, viewer. Thank you for viewing me. I appreciate you. Basically, so with the slave revolt, it really changed the way that the Cherokees dealt with slaves, it became harsher and very like the South. There was no different. In fact, a lot of Cherokee people fought on the Confederate side. They believed what the Confederates told them, that they would get the land back, that they could get all the land that they took from the Cherokee Nation, they would get it back if they fought on their side. And a lot of Cherokees followed that. And even to this day, to me, I believe a lot of the racist ideals they learned was during the Confederate time a lot. And if you're a slave master, you believe in that type of mentality, but not all. The traditionals rejected this. But if you weren't traditional and if you weren't a good Christian that knew that, hey, God does not want slaves, does not want you to be a slave. Even though they say slaves obey your masters, if you read deeper into the Bible, and then I jump back, it says better that you get free. See, there's something about a lot of indigenous people understand the ideal of freedom. And no matter what, they understand that from the animals and the thing and the wind, everything. They understand there's freedom. I guess what I wanted to say is that even though slavery did exist, a lot of people knew it was wrong. It wasn't natural. This is not what how the creator wanted nothing to be, no matter what society it was, basically. With that being said, I want to thank everybody who came out and checked out the Black Bear Medicine Bag show. Next time, I'll probably give more herbal remedies. But tonight was a special night that I wanted to get on here and talk about the historical aspect of John Horse. If you guys want to look it up, I'll put more information on. Check out the Muskogee. Those are the Black Seminoles that's in Mexico. Coahuila. Those are the band of John Horse. There's also a Seminole Freeman that were also part of him. With that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with the little music from. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not going to leave no more stump dance music. But comment, let me know what you thought about the show. If you have any questions, any concerns, let me know. And I want to thank my viewers that popped in, and even just for a second, at least you guys looked at it. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate my fan base. I'm looking to grow tremendously. If there's anybody out here who would like to come and co-host with me and bring your ideas so we can make this show better and more interesting, let me know. With that, I want to tell everybody have a great night. Thank you for coming out. I mean, don't go heat. Until we meet again, take care.